Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am host Matt Gardner. Today, I am joined by Payton Kennedy, fellow Canadian, fellow recovery warrior, and fellow also recovery coach, among many, many other things. So, Payton, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Matt. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking about recovery, all
Uh,
things recovery. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you, as we were getting to know each other a little bit before we started, I mentioned you have three of my all-time favorite words in succession for your branding, and I just love it. And it may sound similar to the listeners in some fashion, specifically the last two words. So expand beyond recovery. Beautiful. I love it. So that
Thank you.
is your brand, your membership service that you have.
Yeah.
You work with, is it primarily women or entirely women?
I would say entirely women. Certainly some of self-identified women, I would say. Some of my work involves working with non-binary folks and, women who identify as women.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Beautiful. And how long have you been doing Expand Beyond Recovery?
Expand Beyond Recovery is pretty new for me. I'm in my second year, so I launched
Oh,
it last year at the beginning of the year, and I'm glad you love the name because I love the name too.
it's beautiful.
I worked with a coach who really helped me launch it, when I felt like I wasn't ready to do that, but
Mm,
she helped me along with that. And yeah, my Expand Beyond Recovery, like the idea behind that name is that so many of us come into recovery and we do a lot of work to make it stick, and we had those first couple of years of just really spending that time letting go of the thing that we need to let go of, whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever it may be, and learning to live a new life. And I think we all get to a point where we're like, okay, we're actually doing this. What's next? Like, and there's that impetus to grow and to learn and to figure out what it is that we want to do with our lives. And so that's what Expand Beyond Recovery is. It's a membership designed for women who may be at a point where they feel like, I need something more. I need a little bit more work. I need a little bit more guidance. I need a little bit more exploration. And so that's what we do together as a group. We have a monthly theme that we work with. This month, we're actually working on yoga philosophy. We're doing the 5 yamas,
mm.
and we're sort of applying those yoga philosophies to recovery. And what I do is I gather resources and tools under that theme. It could be podcasts, it could be readings or books. I teach yoga, both yoga and kind of mindful movement, sometimes dance. And again, those classes are kind of geared towards our theme. And then we have sharing circles and an integration circle at the end. So it's a chance to kind of do the work, not be in overwhelmed land where you're like, I don't even know where to start, and have it be kind of a cohesive thing that you kind of get to pick and choose what you want to do in the month. Some people come in and they do everything. Other people are like, I don't want to do the workbook this week, but I want to show up to the Zoom session. So yeah, it's been really great. And the wonderful thing about it, of course, is that, I'm in this circle of women and, doing the research and the reading and, presenting the material is just a beautiful way for me to do my recovery work as well. So it's
Mm.
pretty awesome. I love it.
Isn't that a like a wonderful byproduct of being a coach or a mentor or like a teacher, is that you also then get to retain so much more than you normally would have otherwise, right? So I had a mentor of mine mentioned, he says, like, I think you can retain 30% if you just read it, 50% if you take some notes, and then 80% when you then turn around and teach it. So I can imagine the
Yeah,
retention level and everything for you is just that next level for doing that. So super
yeah,
cool. I
it's
love the
really
sound
fun.
of your membership. That's really cool. So thanks for sharing that. So yeah, you mentioned you got into you're certified yoga teacher, yoga instructor as well. So I'm picking up on a vibe, and I'm thinking that fits so well in the beyond recovery theme, as well as there is the mental side of things, the mindset piece, and I'm gathering that movement is a big piece of it as well for you in your
Yeah.
program, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I've always been a mover. And although, I would say probably in my active addiction, it, was only something that maybe I guilted myself into doing at times, or, I wasn't fully, I don't think, getting all that I could out of movement. When I came into recovery, I picked yoga back up, I picked dance back up, and used movement, as a tool, not only for like kind of ongoing mental health, but for self-regulation, to shift my energy, to shift my, when I was having cravings, what could I do? Well, I could go and, run around the block or dance a couple of songs. So yeah, it's a really important part of my recovery. And I think, in recovery, we're so much in our heads, right? We're thinking things through and absorbing new concepts, and, having to just, really do a lot of thinking every day to keep ourselves where we need to be. So getting out of the mind and into the body, I think, is just so important. So it's part of what I do, like I said, for my own recovery, and definitely part of what I teach other people.
Very cool. So I'm picking up on there's a lot, and we'll circle back, and I'd love to get your origin story, but I'm picking up on the vibe that a lot of what you teach is in fact what you experienced and what worked for you in your own personal recovery. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely grounded in that, and I guess, we're so, I'm always like, when I talk about recovery, I always, come back to that place of such gratitude for recovery, because, I'm able to, explore, I'm able to, it's not just, because I'm so aware of, the tools and the resources and things I need to do on a daily basis to keep moving forward, to keep, feeling good about my life and where I'm at. And it's just that constant need to, well, I'm going to say rest is important too. That's probably what I'm working on right now. But just just the work, doing the work to, expand, like that's what it is, right? To expand, the way that you think, the way that you move in the world, to open up to new ideas and new philosophies, and just to keep growing as a person, right? We're really lucky in recovery to be exposed to that.
I agree. And there's I think there's a book called like The Luckiest Ones and something along those lines. And absolutely. When you can get on that other side of it and look back, absolutely. Yeah. Gratitude is like, it's so incredibly powerful and grounding. Like you say, like if I'm having a day where I'm getting a little annoyed by something that's fairly trivial, it's so easy for me to shift that and then remember, okay, remember how things used to be. I was like, and then it's just like, man, I can just, like you say, I love how you mentioned coming into my body, take a nice big deep breath, connect that, get out of my head a little bit. And it can happen very quickly if you know how to do it, or if you practice it a lot. Right.
Well, that's the key, right? Is practice. And I think, like I said, there are certainly the things that keep me grounded, and the things that, I certainly teach what I've learned and what I do. But I also love that idea of getting out of my comfort zone and exploring things that I'm not so comfortable with. And like you said, learning about them, practicing them, and then being able to turn around and share that with other people. Like that's a really cool part of doing this work, for sure.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit about the comfort zone, because, it's comfort zone for, especially in early recovery, sobriety. For me, like everything was out of my comfort zone. Right. And then it's like recalibrating myself, because I was so used to numbing things out that I perceived as like bad or scary, or, you know what I mean? And so it took me a while to sort of recalibrate and figure out what I actually wanted to do and be able to set boundaries with people and with myself and so forth. How is that for you? And how does that still show up for you? Because I know a lot of people that have been in active addiction before, the boundaries thing was very tricky to navigate and to set up and actually just figure out how this feels to do it, because you're so used to having this like numbness and just the carefree attitude, or perceived carefree attitude, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's such a journey, right? And I'm still on that journey, right? I'm 8 years, almost 9 years
Mm,
sober. Been,
congratulations.
on a recovery journey for about 10 years.
Mhm.
And I'm still working on boundaries. And I think, I think a lot of this work, right? Whether it's, self-acceptance, practicing like radical self-love, like, the boundaries, all of that stuff is kind of a lifelong,
Yeah, I
a
think you're right.
lifelong
Yeah.
journey. But I love how you said, yeah, when you're in early recovery, you just feel like somebody's turned you inside out, and then you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
And then, again, we talk about in recovery, the peeling back the layers of the onion,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
They always say that, our addictions are merely a symptom of the deeper core wounds that we've picked up in our lives, whatever that may be. And I think for me, it's just the more it's time, right? Like we need
Mm,
time in
yeah.
recovery to, like you said, like be exposed to something and go, oh, do I want that? I'm not sure. I've
Yeah.
never had the chance to actually consider, like
Right.
from a grounded place, whether I want this or not. And then
Yeah.
choosing, and then maybe going, oh no, I don't want this after all, like there's that whole journey.
Yeah.
And I think as you go along, you start to, for me, in my experience, I've started to really cultivate a deeper knowing of myself and what I
Mm,
need on a daily
yeah.
basis. And that certainly helps me, like I said, navigate, my life and my challenges. But there's just always those lessons that still come up, like even, the things that we think, oh yeah, we got that. And then some other situation comes up and that lesson comes right back. And we're like, oh,
Right? Yeah. I know. I liken it to it's like it's the variant of, I think I've got it pinned down. I'm so like
great word
and
for
it's
it.
right. And it's like the whack-a-mole game at the you hit that one, I'm like, what? I just got you. Why are you now you're over here? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I want to one thing that jumped out to me too that I'm really resonated with is like your we're talking about movement and then you're like, don't get me wrong, it's worth we can talk about relaxing here too. You know what? So that was one my huge pattern that I'm just finding now that I carried through getting sober. So I'm coming up on 4 years and I'd had a 3-year sober streak beforehand years ago.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing I never I guess resolved in myself was this idea that okay, as soon as I put down the drink, I was using achieving and distracting and just busy work to keep myself numbed in a sense, right? Using pressure language as my inner dialogue, which in a sense sort of was numbing me as well. There's like an adrenaline dump. Okay, I got to get this finished today. And,
Yeah.
this is just work the last 8 months I've been doing on myself, realizing that that's A, I don't have to do that anymore. B, I mean, it's not really serving me. Like I'm happy that I have this work ethic that I've cultivated throughout my life. But I'm finding that it's definitely a pattern that is I'm outgrowing and there's some growing pains happening. You're talking about expansion. It's definitely that when I think of expansion and growth, there's going to be some growing pains too, right? So I'm having that like sort of pain of becoming aware of this pattern and resolving it. And because there's initially some like shame or guilt going, dang, like, how have I not known this about myself? Then going, no, I'm thankful because this is how I've gotten as far as I have in my life. And, again, like you say, journey is such a great word for it. Is there any pattern like that you've identified with or that you've shown up in your life that you're like, oh, shoot, I've been doing this the whole time. And it's like, it kind of caught you off guard that you're doing it, whether it's a fixer, a doer, a people pleaser, or anything
Yeah.
like that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, one of the biggest things that I've struggled with, and I still do, I'm getting better at it, but is perfectionism.
Mm,
I too, and I think, again, there's a lot of us, that are in recovery that are kind of that A-type personality when it comes to doing and working and achieving.
yeah.
And, for me, the extra layer is perfectionism.
Mm,
And I can be extremely hard on myself. I'm like, I'm probably known in my community as somebody who's very calm, and often I've been put into a mediator role when I'm like,
Mm.
and oh, give that to Payton. She's so good at that, right? Um, but I recognize that I am in for other people, but for myself, God forbid I would ever make a mistake,
Right, right.
So
Okay.
that's something that really, in the last few years, I've really come to realize that I identify as somebody now that is recovering from perfectionism, and I'm still
Oh,
doing that work,
yeah. Yeah.
Also, the rest piece, right? Like
Yeah.
the opposite of this go, 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 go.
Mm.
That's obviously very, sorry, I'm just putting my dog's toy away here.
Yeah, of
She's
course.
squeaking it.
Yeah.
Um, we're seeing more of that, like even in the social media space, there's so
Yes.
many,
Yeah.
people on Instagram talking about rest and about, the value of rest.
Mhm.
And, that's big for me as well. I think that that's something that I'm working on now. And I just continue to have in check, or
Mm.
otherwise, again, overworking or workaholism. I mean, it's an ism, right?
It's
And
an
if
ism. Yeah, it's another
you're
ism. Yep.
somebody, yeah, with an addictive personality,
Yep.
chances are you're going to
Yeah.
wade into those waters. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think you're right. I'm seeing that too, showing up. It's like I think it happens sort of gradually over the COVID times, and when people are starting to work from home and realize it's so in their face. You're literally working at home, and you have this ability to, like, it's basically put on your lap. It's like, are you going to find a work-life balance now? And a lot of people had the pendulum go so much far the other way,
Yeah.
where they're just working nonstop. There is no lines between work and home because you're at home. You're not used to working from home. And then there was this, like, well, this is how I perceived anyway, so sort of backlash, and you see these people quitting their jobs. There's the great resignation, a lot of people starting their own businesses.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to see that a lot less glamorized, the grind, the 80 hours a week. And, don't get me wrong, it's, you still have to, yeah, it's finding that calibration with yourself and with myself, right? Is like, and, I'm the same way as you. I mean, there are still some days where even I'm consciously choosing a rest day, and I still have a little bit of like shit talk in my self-talk going, oh, you really should, the shoulding, right? You
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
should be doing something. And then I have to just redirect it and breathe.
Yeah.
I'm choosing this. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. I'm glid we touched on it. So thanks. By the way.
Yeah. I just want to just add to that,
Yeah, yes.
I think it's, here's like a overarching analogy here. I think,
Yeah.
when we're younger, we think living in the middle is the most boring thing you could possibly ever do. And in
Yeah.
addiction as well, right? When
Right.
for me, I thought I was, part of this cool, like, yeah, we party hard and, it's extreme and, that sort of mindset. And then you get into recovery and, maybe you go to the other extreme for a while as you're
Yep.
recovering.
Mhm.
But then I think you move into this idea of how can I exist in the middle? I don't want
Yes.
to be one extreme or the other. I want
Yeah.
to like exist in the middle. Like I said, it was the
Yeah.
most boring thing I could think of when I was younger. But
Yeah.
now I'm kind of digging that.
I
I'm
love
digging
that.
that idea.
Yeah, I love that, Peyton. You alluded to it now, so I'm going to capitalize on it as a segue to go back into your past. You talked a little bit about it there, a little foreshadowing, some extreme behavior perhaps of when you were younger. Let's go back into it. What was your life like growing up? I know you're a BC gal, which is amazing. That's where I'm from as well, British Columbia, for the non-Canadian listeners. So tell me a little bit about what was your relationship, your upbringing, like, whatever you care to share about your origin
Yeah.
stories with substances.
Well, I will say I'll maybe talk about the things that I feel like are part of my recovery
Yeah.
and my addiction and my recovery story. I was adopted. And I grew up with my adoptive parents, of course.
Mhm.
And can you hear that squeaking?
I could the last time. Yeah. I didn't hear it the first time. And then when you got the toy away, and now it just, yeah, there's a little
Yeah,
sound
it's
effects
come
going on.
back. Hold on one second.
Oh, good. What kind of
We're
dog
gonna
do you have, by the way?
She is a cute little Chihuahua pug mix.
Oh
They're
my
called chugs.
goodness.
Yeah,
Chugs.
they're called chugs.
Oh,
She's
I want
quite
to see
cute.
her. I want
Yeah,
to
she
see her.
comes over here. I'll
Okay,
put her in front of the
beautiful.
camera.
I love it.
Anyway,
Okay.
so I grew up with my adoptive parents, my adopted brother. I grew up in a safe, pretty normal home.
Mhm.
I always felt like a black sheep. My adoption story is a story that I really was immersed in as a kid, as a teenager, as a young woman. I searched for my my birth family, never found them. And I think, again, there's a big correlation between adopted people and addiction. You'll find a lot of that. Oh, there she is.
Oh my goodness, what a beautiful, beautiful dog.
Yeah, she's
I
a
love
kitty.
her. I love her.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just because she's on camera. How old is she? I love dogs.
she's actually 9.
9.
I
Wow.
know.
She looks like a puppy. Oh my goodness, what a
She's a
beautiful
very
dog.
young 9.
Very
Yes.
young 9. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, what a dog. What an amazing critter. That's so cool. I have a couple of, well, my wife and I have a beagle and a Mexican rescue dog. We used to have a Chihuahua. That's why I was so interested in seeing yours. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt your
Chihuahua
story.
and pup. Chug.
Beautiful. A chug.
Chug. Yeah, that's what they
Oh
call
man.
them.
Right?
Yes.
Too
Yes.
funny. Bye. Or
Yeah.
I guess if she wants to stay too.
Well,
Okay.
she's gonna stay so that she doesn't whine about
Get
her
the toy again.
toy. Um,
Tremendous.
what was I gonna say?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, so my adoption story has been a big part of my life and has been a big part of my anxiety. And again, that this idea of not feeling connected, the word that I have used my whole life is untethered. And it's visually is this visual of me like in space, floating, not connected to anything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, the story that I grew up with, the story of myself. And I think, again, that sort of feeling disconnected was a big part of what, got me into addictive states. So, drinking, my primary drug of choice was alcohol. And, I, like most people, partied with, friends, and everybody was doing the same thing. So didn't seem like I had a problem. I drank, through my 20s and 30s. When I was in my early 40s, I went through a divorce, and that's when it got, well, it was my late 30s. That's when it got bad. That's when I started to drink at home by myself. And that's when things kind of really went downhill.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I grew up, my parents didn't really drink. I had like I said, a safe home to grow up in. There were issues, and, that adoption piece, I think, was a big thing. I was a very shy person as a kid. Alcohol was always fun and made everything fun, and I was more confident, and I was more, I thought, oh, this is who I really am when I drink.
Right.
Now, the funny piece of this, and I'll drop this in just really quickly, is in 2020, during the pandemic, years after I thought there's no way in hell I'm ever going to meet any of my birth parents, I got a message on Facebook from my sister. So
wow.
Out of the blue, rocked my world.
Wow.
And I learned that I was the oldest of 4 girls.
Wow.
And my birth mother had passed away at the age of 54 from a heroin overdose. Ooh. So, this whole, and, by that time, I'd been in recovery for, I guess, 6 years. It was kind of like a big, huge puzzle piece falling out of the sky and landing on my head. Sure. In terms of this, larger kind of story of, who was I and why was I here and what was I, how did I get here? And, I mean, what I learned about my birth family was there's just, going back years, mother, grandmother, grandfather, there was just a cycle of addiction and trauma that happened. And even though I was picked up and lifted out of that, and I was the lucky one, my sisters grew up in complete chaos. I was the lucky one. I was picked up, lifted out, put down, like I said, into this safe container, and I still went down. Right.
Wow.
But it means a lot to me now to be in this space, to be working with women in recovery, to know that, the work that I do, with my own, work, and the work that I do with the nonprofit that I'm involved in. This is what my birth mother was never able to have. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Connection.
Yeah.
Supports, resources. So it really means a lot. And I think there's more to the story. I just don't know what it is yet. I feel like I'm still processing all of this information. Right. So
exactly. Isn't that amazing? That must have been like processing information. That's like, I'm sure that's an understatement. I imagine, how would that have been for you? And how did that change your perspective, where initially there was this longing or yearning to find out, and then when you did find out, like you said, massive puzzle piece, and then all of a sudden, I imagine it was accompanied by this relief, gratitude, like what else? Like
everything.
All the above.
Everything, right? Everything, because it was I told myself a completely different story when I was growing up, right? I thought, oh, there's this amazing family out there that, they didn't want me. I'm over here, but they're all the same and everything's going great over there. Right?
Of course. Yeah.
But what, it was the exact opposite.
Literally.
I was the lucky one.
What a paradigm shift, right?
It still, when I talk about it, just kind of blows my mind. And it really taught me that very valuable lesson of, you can tell yourself a story, if, we all have our perceptions and our the way that we look at the world, the lens that we look at the world through, the stories that we tell ourselves based on our own wounds.
100%. Yeah.
Is that the truth?
Yeah.
Maybe not,
more often than not, not the case. And, there'll be a story, that served you for a certain period in time, and then you get something like what you have happen to go, oh, wait a second, that whole thing that I fabricated that was a protection mechanism, I can release now. And it's just, now I have this whole different perspective. It's just, wow, that's powerful. Thanks for sharing.
And it was a real gift too, from my relationship. Not so much my relationship, but my feeling towards my adoptive parents. My adoptive parents are elderly. My mom actually passed away last year. My dad is 89. He's in long-term care, but it really, like all things, kind of divine timing, right? But it really shifted my feeling, my perception about my adopted family, and about my parents, and what the gift that they gave to me.
So did you have like I wouldn't, perhaps resentment is too strong of a word. Did you have a little bit of a break in the connection, a gap in the connection that, was able to resolve itself when you did find that out? Yeah, that's beautiful.
I did. Because I was, I moved away from my adoptive parents when I was 18, and I moved far away and didn't have much of a relationship with them. I mean, I came home, for Christmas or whatever, but always lived quite far away from them, and, wasn't super close. And, in these last, I would say the last, 10 years of my life, I've been able to cultivate a closer relationship with them. And then, again, having this happen in 2020, just really, the timing of that was just having that experience and really just reframing, that part of my life, just felt very, I'm grateful for that. And, like I said, it's my dad only now. And I'm, doing my best to, to be there for him and to take care of him and make him a priority in my life. And again, it's with this added gratitude that I feel for them.
It's beautiful. And I think it's nice that you had that chance to have some time with your, adopted mom prior to, I'm sorry to hear about your loss there for last year. But it sounds like you did have a good year and a half or a couple of years to have that chance, right? Which is a beautiful thing. Wow, what a powerful story. That's thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that's amazing. So super cool. And then here you are. So during the COVID era, you started your own thing, the Expand Beyond Recovery. So very cool. What was the origin of that? What was it, something that had sort of been in your periphery of your mind? Hey, this is something I want to do, bring all these different things together and become a coach. Like, how did it all come together?
Well, I started working with the She Recovers Foundation, which is a foundation that supports women in recovery. I came together with the founders in 2016. We put on an event in New York in 2017, and I started to work with them. So I started to work in the recovery space. I came in, as an event planner. That was kind of the work that I was doing before, the work I'm doing now.
Cool.
I worked in, culinary and did wedding planning and that kind of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. Which, culinary didn't work very well when I was sober, because I worked in a culinary venue that was all food and wine. Right. So
sure. Of course.
But being in recovery spaces, and, I'm the kind of person who I've always kind of had, I don't know, I'm a person that wears a few different hats. I've kind of been like that my whole life. I've never just done one thing. So I was working, coordinating events and retreats, and then, started to, be more in that space, holding space, in sharing circles and things like that. And then I, went on to get my yoga, my 200-hour yoga certification. It just made sense that I did my coaching, my recovery coaching and my life coaching. And I think Expand Beyond Recovery, I knew that I wanted to work in this space, but I didn't want to do just one thing. Sometimes I think maybe that's to my detriment. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
So Expand Beyond Recovery came about because I wanted to teach. Like, I was teaching yoga all the way through the pandemic, online, of course. I wanted to do that, but I wanted to offer more than that. And again, thinking about that idea of there's so much in recovery. And sometimes it can be so overwhelming, or we just don't know where to go next. And I thought, it was literally this idea that I had, wouldn't it be cool to have a theme each month, and then to gather all those resources to write myself. I'm a writer as well, and I love to write. And so there's a chance for me to do some writing there. I can teach, I can teach dance, I can do mindful movement, I can do, trauma-informed yoga, which is the yoga that I teach. So I just love the idea that I could do all these things. And I'm a pretty creative person, so it really helps me express that creative flow, be in that creative process each month, right? Because I have the theme, and then I kind of build all the things in that theme. So that's kind of how that came about. And like I said, I'm really, I'm only in my second year. I have a small, intimate group who are very engaged, who are all getting to know each other, who support each other now, now that they've gotten to know each other. Of course, I'd love to grow it. But I'm just I really love all of those pieces. I love all those pieces together.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's funny because right as we were signing in and just having the preamble before we started, that was very apparent, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you've got a lot going on, and even in the name suggests that there's going to be, many elements brought together in this beautiful. I like the way that you say, like, creative and artistic way in a lot of ways, and then the writer thing doesn't surprise me just from talking to you. So you have you're able to fully express yourself in a way to the people that you're facilitating this group to. And I'm sure that allows them to perhaps step a little bit more into their creative side, or see different sides of themselves that may have been dormant otherwise too, I imagine too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I mean, giving people full permission to kind of explore those things, and knowing that those things are really tied to this idea of I like to talk about creating confidence and self-trust. Like self-trust is something that I didn't have a lick of when I got into recovery. I didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
So it didn't trust a lot of people around me, but mostly I didn't trust myself. And so when you don't trust yourself, you question everything that you do.
That's a good point.
Everything that you think, right? So,
Yeah.
This idea of being, like I said, in this container where you're exposed to, these different themes and these different, ways to express these themes. And then, you get to try these things on. And, some of them, I've had people in my group saying, yeah, that didn't really work for me, but this really this was a change maker for me. Right.
Exactly.
So, I think that's what we need to do in order to know, what it is that rings true for us, what feels authentic for us. Because I think as soon as you step into your authenticity and your truth, that's where the magic is, right? That's where the really good stuff is.
Absolutely. And, and it goes back to even the beginning of our conversation, talking about comfort zones and such. And you're already out of your comfort zone, as we mentioned, in early sobriety. So why not try on this? I call them white belt activities, right? Why not just try something that I imagine there's people that haven't done yoga, that are coming to your groups, and like you say, you're going to have people that are like, wow, where has this been all my life? Then you're going to have some other people that are kind of like, I can see the benefit to it. I might do it like every couple months, and everywhere in between. Right. And just having that allowance and that permission of like that full spectrum just sounds like a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think it's empowering, right? It's empowering to be able to take something through that whole process of like, oh, there's that, and then okay, I'm going to try that, and I'm practicing that for a little bit, and you know what, that actually doesn't work for me, but over here this does. And so I think that it's a really empowering thing.
And then it's like what we were talking about at the beginning too, is just like finding that calibration, right? So like going all in for something just to try it, instead of just dabbling with it. There's going to be an opportunity to immerse yourself in that for a bit. Decide if it's not for you. Start to gauge that in how that feels in your body. Okay, is this a 10 for me? Not necessarily. It's still a 6, something you could come back to. And really, like exploring seems to be a key word that's coming up from you to reflect back to you. So I'm finding that that's definitely a theme in what we're talking about within your program and such too. Very cool.
For sure.
Yeah, I know you have an event coming up later in the year with the nonprofit that you're part of, She Recovers Foundation. So I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so this, like I said, the She Recovers Foundation is an organization that supports women in recovery. We connect, support, and empower women. And we have a pretty robust virtual platform. We have twice daily gatherings, so sharing circles. We've got trauma-informed yoga, we've got dance, we've got mental health Monday workshops, and all of these things are free. So that's pretty amazing.
That is, yeah.
We've been doing it. This was born from the pandemic. We went into the pandemic with 2020 packed full of events and retreats. And then in March, that all came to a halt. Right. And we literally, jumped. I think the anniversary of our first Zoom session is coming up on March 17th.
Oh,
2 days from now.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be our 2000th Zoom meeting.
Wow.
But anyway, so amazing resource for, like I said, women in recovery, non-binary folks who identify with women's communities, trans women. Lots of really great resources there. Part of our work, of course, is, there's all sort of research, advocacy, all that kind of stuff, but we also do amazing events. So one of the events that's coming up at the end of this year, at the end of September, that I'm involved in is a large conference, and that's going to be happening this year in Chicago at the end of September.
Cool.
So it's like a weekend conference. We also have a professionals symposium that starts the weekend. That happens on the Thursday, and then She Recovers in Chicago happens Friday throughout the weekend. But it's an event that we've done not every year. Of course, 2020 we missed, and 2021 we did, because we didn't feel like it was appropriate to gather in 2021 either.
Right.
So we did. We've done New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and this one's in Chicago. So it's a pretty amazing event. Our keynote speakers are Elizabeth Gilbert from Eat, Pray, Love. She's our keynote speaker.
Very cool.
A woman by the name of Valerie Kaur, who is a author, speaker, advocate, pretty amazing woman. And our theme for the weekend is storytelling. So our strength, our stories, our strength. So that theme is going to weave through the whole, through the professional symposium and the weekend. And it really, with the idea of our personal stories of recovery, are what connect us, what ground us, and what they help us grow in our lives. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing event. It's pretty full on.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yes.
Like, 500 to 600 women gathered in one venue. It's not
incredible.
Maybe for introverts.
Yeah, you think? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a pretty amazing, it's one of those things. When we did the first one in New York in 2017, and I had, I'm not somebody who ever been to, the big AA conventions or NA conventions or things like that. But it was the first time I'd been in a room full of recovering women, a large group, and just the energy was like, it was amazing, and I was fairly new in recovery at that point.
Yeah, sure.
So it just, I remember going, this is the best event I've ever been involved in my life, right?
In my life. Yeah, exactly. Life-changing event for you.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. Exactly. And here we are, 6 years later, and planning that one. So we'll put that in the show notes as well. I'll get the details off you for that one. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and then anything else? We'll wind things down here. Payton, I really enjoyed talking with you. What an amazing story! I love all that you have going on. I'll just give you a chance to let people know what's the easiest way to get a hold of you on social media. Those are my dogs.
Yeah, my site, my website, I finished that last year as well. PaytonKennedy.com. There's lots of great information there. I have, of course, the Expand Beyond Recovery membership. I do private coaching as well. And I write a blog every month on the 15th. I'm late this month. I got to get writing. But, that's something, even if you just want to read some musings on recovery and life, you can join my newsletter and catch me there. And I'm all on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram, and I'm expand.beyond.recovery on Instagram. You can find me with my name too. But that these places are places where I'm definitely expanding and going through some uncomfortable moments, trying to do all the things on Instagram. But I really love the platform, and I love to connect with people on the platform. And certainly that's how we connected. So I'm grateful for it, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. You can probably hear my dogs in the background, can you?
I think I just heard a little bark.
Okay. Yeah. So the mailman has come. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Payton. I have a hard time finishing up with the dogs going nuts. So yes, we'll connect again. Thank you for coming on today.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
You bet.
Okay. Take care.